This is from the LAUSD. So this is we had inquired about how much was outstanding on the over allocation invoices that have been sent by the district. So the district sent invoices totaling $14,253,674.08. And of that, only $2,817,905.27 is paid. So that means that we have a outstanding balance that the charter schools owe the district of $11,435,768.81.
The school board status on this.
I mean, I can see that Mr. Schmerlson is definitely concerned about these numbers and wants to be more aggressive about, you know, really taking into consideration, you know, how charter schools anticipate their enrollment and why they might have under enrollment and why they wouldn't return those monies to the school district. You know, it's kind of, you know, creating a more synergistic relationship. And Mr. Schmerlson, you know, always points out too, when charter schools, you know, were first created, the idea was that, you know, they would be these innovative spaces where teachers and administrators could more freely, you know, try out new strategies in their own curriculum. And the idea was that they would then take those learnings and bring it back to the traditional public school. And Mr. Schmerlson's, you know, critique is that, you know, that doesn't happen nearly as much. And in this situation, they're taking money that could be spent at those neighborhood schools, which many of you send your children to. So that is definitely a criticism that he has. And, you know, especially right now, you know, some of these schools are thinking about expanding or are thinking about, you know, or trying to get their charters renewed. And this is definitely, you know, a topic that he and several other board members are really trying to stress, is that, you know, part of being an oversight body is making sure that your schools are fiscally responsible. And, you know, these are all anticipated costs that they have. And so this is definitely an issue that he's really concerned about. And
what exactly is the mechanism to get these funds back if requested?
I'm going to speak as honestly as I can, is that, you know, the board has the option to like not renew charters, but you need a board that would be willing to do that. And so Mr. Schmerlson is one of 7 board members and a majority is 4 board members.
At last week's board meeting, the New Heights Charter School was up for renewal and they owe a total of $1,046,000 plus. Basically, they're saying they're not going to pay it. They don't believe they owe it. Scott voted against renewing their charter. Jackie Goldberg abstained. So everybody else voted yes.
So what is, I mean, as far as putting pressure to get this money back? I mean,
if we're thinking like more long term, it would probably be like Prop 39 revisions, or thinking about a new law of how charter schools get their money, would probably be like the long-term strategy. But then, you know, in the short term, and I know you all have commented on some, you know, charter schools that we're hoping and have expanded to the West Valley, is that if the community that New Heights Charter School is in, for example, were to be really upset that $1 million is missing from their neighborhood schools, that could potentially create like more localized pressures right now. But unfortunately, with the current dynamics on the board, and, you know, this is the law and they're not in compliance right now. Unfortunately, there just aren't those mechanisms to say that. And there's also, I also want to make clear that for all of these situations, like they all might have unique issues, and I don't think Mr. Schmerlson would say these 54 schools should cease to exist. I don't think that's what he's saying either, because obviously there are kids and their families that rely on that school. But if they're
Yeah, when you're
owing
talking
money
over
for
$1 million,
multiple years, yeah, they're owing money for multiple years. It's kind of like 1 year you could say, well, it was a mistake or that was a difficult year, but it's a trend.
And honestly, it's not fair from charter school to charter school, because there's like a charter school here, ISANA, that paid their bill of $317,000.
Number one, when this financial transaction was established, was there indeed a structured plan for the contingency when a charter school did not pay the fees? Was there a structured plan to recover those fees when this financial plan was established? And question two is there actually a structured recovery plan?
So I read some district documents today, and according to the district, in the Prop 39 agreements that these schools signed, it states that, they agree to pay these fees if they have an over allocation. Technically, the district can cite them as in violation of their charter. It's just, there needs to be a will to do this. And as in the current state, I don't think that will exists. But
is
perhaps
this information here public?
Yeah. This is taken directly from the website, the LAUSD website.
You can also see like the letters that the district sends to every, the district formally notifies every charter school that's in violation, like why they're in violation, the actual amount. So yeah, that information's all public.
Now, Tara, when those letters go out, what's the highest level that's copied on those letters? Does it go to the DOE? I mean, because if you just send a letter, but there's no consequence of defaulting, the financial default, I mean, aside from shutting down all of those schools, and that's not reasonable. But if there's not a consequence, I think what I'm saying is that's $11 million that LAUSD does not have. They don't have those funds. Those funds are gone and they're owed to LAUSD. And if they can't recover those funds, they're going to be in a hole by $11 million. And the state of California Department of Education is not going to say, well, that's too bad. We feel bad for you. We'll make it up. That's not going to happen. So some way there has to be a consequence, and these funds have to be recovered by LAUSD. And we could never do that in my educational system. We'd have to recover those funds.
The way I've always looked at this is an equal protection issue, because funding basically comes from the state to the charter schools, and then the district has to provide services. The Prop 39 was supposed to help it. So when you have over services, the school district is providing, as we see, services that are not being properly funded, not that get funding for. So who is that hurting? That's hurting all of the students in your public schools that are not in charter schools. And that's why this is an equal protection issue. Okay, so what is actually happening here is services, basic stuff, teacher salaries, school supplies, everything else are being denied to the students in a non-charter school.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just noticing those that haven't paid in general are not even making an attempt to pay, is what I see. Is that if I'm looking through this list, almost, I would say 75% of the ones that owe something owe most of what they've taken. They've been allocated. So it doesn't look like there's any effort whatsoever on those schools' parts to even try to adhere to the agreement.
Yeah, and I'll just say that I'm going to try to get some more information about, what I guess levers the district has to really encourage people to pay. But, as Carl kind of alluded to, some people don't think that they owe the money. But it's kind of this issue of, you go into getting your charter agreeing to a certain set of rules, and then once you break the rules, you call into question the validity of the rule. So it's definitely quite complex, and I agree with Tony that it's unfortunate that there aren't more attempts being made to repay the funds.
If we have
Some
any-
of these amounts are really enormous. I mean, enormous, almost $1 million for some,
Yes.
a $500,000.
There's at least 3 that are over $1 million.
I mean, it's like, holy cow. Oh, and yeah, 1.1 million, almost 1.3 million. It's like, and they haven't paid anything back. Do these places still exist?
I think what Seymour was saying, I mean, if it's possible to briefly take my district hat off and talk as a person that's interested in education issues, I think what Seymour is saying is, is right in that none of these particular schools might be in your neighborhood, but if you go to other neighborhood councils and they have one of these schools in their neighborhood, I don't think they are going to be happy about, their neighborhood public schools not getting their fair shake. So that could possibly be a strategy to encourage, more grassroots pressures, encouraging the district to, be an actual oversight body for these schools.
Well, also, the district has an overall budget. So this money, affects all of our schools, not just the ones where these are co-located. So these amounts are due because the charter schools said that they were going to have X amount of students and their actual number of students was much lower. So when they come up with that, it's supposed to be, they're supposed to provide a list of students that they have a reasonable expectation that will be attending their charter. But I was forwarded this Facebook listing from a principal at Citizens of the World Charter in Hollywood, where they're basically saying, yeah, you don't have to be really interested in our school. We just need names. And this is the problem. So judging from this, I'm going to guess that the names are not audited in any way by the charter school division.
So that's nuts. This is just not right. That's my wisdom for the whole night. This is just not right. I mean, these student attendees are fantasy. It's just to get numbers so they can increase. I mean, that's what it appears to be. It may not be that at all, but it certainly appears that they're just trying to get names to get the numbers up to get a higher dollar value. This is like an auction. I don't know. For some reason, this is just really annoying me. Maybe it's COVID syndrome. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's real money that's being shifted around, and I mean,
Yep.
at least in this particular case, it's being done so under the table.
If a business did this to a bank, the people who signed that paperwork would go to jail. So I'm proposing that we send a resolution to the board so that we can contact the education committee on the city council.
If there are no comments, I'd move to affirm this resolution.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so that's 4.